Welcome to Understanding the Unhoused. My name is Joshua. Through a series of interviews with individuals who are experiencing homelessness, my intention with this podcast is to increase compassion and empathy for the unhoused. Though the terms homeless and unhoused can be used interchangeably, I prefer unhoused because it emphasizes that the problem is a lack of affordable housing rather than a personal weakness. When people see an unhoused individual, they can feel fear, anger, apathy, sometimes all three. My hope is after hearing their stories, hearing what it's like for them on a day-to-day basis, it will make it clearer that these are just people. People who, through a combination of bad luck, bad choices, and, let's be honest, a broken system, have found themselves without a roof over their heads. Okay, enough ado. Alexis is the first interview I have done with someone outside of California. She reached out to me responding to a post I put in the subreddit r/homeless and said that she would be willing to share her story. I am very excited to be able to share this because this means that I can now talk to anyone in the country, anyone in the world that can call my number, can tell their story of their experience with homelessness and or their experience trying to solve the problem of homelessness, as my last interview was. Okay, please enjoy the interview. Thank you for talking to me today.
Of course, not a problem.
First of all, how long have you been unhoused?
Since August of last year.
And can you talk about the circumstances that led you to that?
Well, I was a teacher, and then I got injured on the job, and I was out for 6 months. My job was not held, so of course in those 6 months, we couldn't pay rent. Things got really behind. My friend who I live with is on disability, so things just were not meeting financially. And then my health just went downhill, so there was no way of getting a full-time job.
So you lost your housing, and now you said via the email that you sent me that you and your friend live in a car together?
Yeah. Yep. With our 2 cats. We're in Rochester, New York.
And what about your situation led you to try car living as opposed to, I don't know, tents or shelters or anything?
We did look at tents for a while, but it just got way too cold here. And, and also it's dangerous, for women to be sort of just sleeping rough. So at least in the car we have some sort of protection. And, we both have back problems. So laying on the ground is not the easiest for us to do.
Sure.
So it's mostly just the cold.
That makes sense. So you're living in a car. Are you in a safe parking area? Are you being harassed on a regular basis, or?
There's a Walmart that we can stay in for most of the night, and they know us and they leave us alone. Actually, most of the harassment that we've faced has been actually when asking for help.
Really?
Most of if I'll ask for, just anything helps, I get a lot of requests for sexual favors or, straight up, hey, let me help you, and I'll get a video of a guy jacking off.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's kind of led me to not ask for help so much anymore.
So what is your day-to-day? Talk about how you're getting through, if you could.
Well, we have food stamps, so that really helped.
Yeah.
I finally got onto temporary assistance last month.
Mm-hmm.
We were initially denied back in August because, there never really was a great reason.
Yeah.
And we got turned away for housing, also because we asked for get hotel vouchers because my friend is a diabetic. I was told I could pay to live in a shelter, but the cats and my friend could not come with me.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, just clarification. Did you say you could pay to live in a shelter?
Yes.
as opposed to just living in a shelter because that's what shelters are for? Like, I don't understand how that works.
Yeah.
Like, is that a New York thing, or?
I think so. I know some people around here can pay up to $300 a week to live in a shelter. Yeah, the way Rochester runs is that if DHS does not approve you for shelter living, shelters here will turn you away. They'll only work on DHS referrals. And in terms of animals, they won't even take trained service dogs.
So are there any options of shelters that will take pets, or is that just across the board?
There is one, but it's for domestic violence shelter.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and most shelters will not house us together because we're not a traditional family, even though I'm her home health aide.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but because, there's no children in the picture, or we're not married because we're friends, So I just also didn't feel right about me being in a shelter with her in a car with the cat. The homeless situation here is not the best. So.
Yeah, talk about that. Like, have you considered trying to leave or go elsewhere, or do you need to stay in New York? Rochester.
We have considered leaving. We're staying here for at least the current few months because the healthcare here is actually pretty good.
Okay.
Because we have a university healthcare system here.
Mm-hmm.
And just with our various health issues, that's pretty important. But we've actually considered moving to Illinois part-time because that's where Steph is from, my friend. And her father, unfortunately, is dying of cancer at the moment.
Oh, no. Wow.
Yeah. So
sorry about that.
Cheaper there, but it's just, we have to stay here for the health care.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
That is hard.
Yeah. And just everything here, as I've mentioned, is controlled by DSS and DHS.
Mm-hmm.
Like the first time I applied for temporary assistance, the lady told me that I can't go to DSS expecting handouts.
Okay. What should you expect when you go to a place that's supposed to help you?
Not a clue.
Yeah.
So she denied us or at least denied me for that, and then told my friend that she's on disability. She makes $10 too much.
Oh my God.
To get help.
Wow.
And they didn't ask her to calculate her expenses. They just said blankly, you make too much.
Without taking into account what she actually pays out.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And I finally got my rental assistance, $215 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, rent starts here for studio at about $850.
Sure. Wow. So, I mean, is there any programs you could be a part of that would help pay your subsidies, that would subsidize the rent for you?
No, because I haven't been DSS approved.
Oh, right. You have to have that.
So it's a bit of a lose-lose situation.
Yeah. So, I mean, by what you were saying earlier, you're not asking for help from the general public any longer? Like, did you used to go out and fly a sign, just try and get assistance that way, or?
Well, I would post, either on Reddit, some of the help groups, or Facebook for some of the help groups.
Okay.
Either you get scammed.
Right.
And no one's actually to help you, or you get a lot of requests to do things that are borderline illegal or just straight out illegal, which is not what I'm looking for. I have enough going on in my life. I do not need legal problems.
Yeah.
And then, or you get people who just comb through your post history and just tear you down. Like, how could you possibly expect to, have anyone help you? What are you doing? You can't be disabled.
Wow.
They'll tell you to get out and work, and it's like, I would love to.
Going back to that real quick, you said you were injured at your job?
Yeah, it was actually the third on-job injury I had. But this one was a concussion, so it took me out for a while.
Yeah. And they couldn't just keep your job open and everything,
No, because I was a front desk secretary at a school.
Okay.
So they wanted to fill that job quickly, and it was in my first 90 days.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And my boss gave me the concussion, so they just wanted to kind of get me out the door.
But I'm sorry, your boss gave you the concussion?
Yeah.
Do you mind?
Sure. You know those like half doors that they have in school front offices?
Yeah. Mhm.
My boss dropped her papers, so I went down to pick them up. As I was coming up, she opened the door and the ledge caught me on the top of my head.
Wow.
Yeah, so that kind of knocked me out for a bit.
Sure.
So, and then it just kind of, things went more downhill from there, just health-wise.
What about family?
Steph's family has been great, even though they're not too far off from where we are, financially and stuff like that. Very helpful.
Good.
Even when they send like some of their last like 100 to us. My parents, on the other hand, my parents are millionaires, and they've essentially cut me off.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? 'Cause
Sure.
that sounds extreme.
I grew up in a bedroom community of Wall Street, and
Could you explain what bedroom community means? Sorry.
sure, most of the people in my town worked in Wall Street. So it was about a 35-minute train ride into the city. It was just very affluent.
Got it.
And my parents, they really wanted more of an accessory than a child at some stages.
Oh, wow.
So now that I'm in the process of getting on disability and homeless, they don't really want a ton to do with me at the moment.
Because, like you said, like they just wanted something that they could show off, probably, rather than...
Yeah. Like when I went to college, they really wanted me to go into sciences so I could have a doctorate title. That was not my forte.
Okay.
Science was incredibly interesting, just not my wheelhouse. So, so I graduated with a degree in creative writing and a minor in theater, and then I went to grad school to be a teacher.
Yeah.
And they're like, at least, they felt like they could brag about that until I only worked part-time as a teacher.
Okay.
Because, you can't really make a living as a teacher.
It's sad because that is one of the most important jobs out there. But you're right.
Yeah, family is, at least on my side, not really there. But Seth's family has been great.
I'm glad to hear that at least.
Yeah.
You got a little bit of support.
Mhm. Yeah, but one thing I've noticed is a common occurrence, like friends also turn against you when you're homeless.
Really?
Yeah. My best friend doesn't talk to me anymore because of it, so.
Just because you have to live out of a car, your friend won't talk to you?
Yeah, he feels like he was supporting me on my downward spiral. And I've heard a lot of other, unhoused people saying similar things, on the Reddit group and things like that, yeah.
Do you have any experience in shelters around the area? Did you try that?
We did stay for one night. Yeah, we were able to stay for one night in the YWCA.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want us there because of the cats, but they at least housed us for one night.
Wow. Okay.
It was very, we were lucky to have a private room, not like in a room with a whole bunch of other people.
Mm-hmm.
It was not necessarily for us because of just how strict they were with their time schedules.
Like you had a curfew, had to be in a certain place at a certain time, that sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah,
like they would check to make sure you were in your rooms in the morning, check to make sure you're in their rooms at night. They did bathroom inspections. And it just felt more like either we were grade schoolers again or we were kind of in jail.
Sure.
And we're 32 and 40 years old. We don't need to be micromanaged that much. So.
That's a common thing I've heard about people have said about shelters. Like, it's a nice opportunity, but the strictness around them is just too much for most people.
And then they sat us down the next day and was like, well, in order to have the cats there, we need to have the ESA paperwork, which doesn't, or like a badge from a website, which those are scams.
Oh, wow.
Only ESC paperwork that's sort of legitimate is from your doctor, and they would not accept that. We didn't have the money to spend a couple $100 on fake badges. And
Wow.
they were asking, I think, about $300 a week for both of us to stay there. And at that point, I only had the income I got from working with her as her home health aide, and she has her disability that she gets once a month. So that was not not feasible. And I don't know any other homeless person can necessarily generate $300 a month.
What do you wish were being done differently in how the unhoused were treated where you are?
I wish that there was more shelters that were not BSS, VHS controlled. And I've only found one shelter here that looks at accepting families that are not traditional, where they'll, happily accept LGBTQIA people and single fathers and stuff like that. Most of the other shelters here are either for veterans, single moms, or, traditional male-female couples with or without children. And then also just more acceptance for people with animals. Like, animals are, whether or not they're service animals, sometimes they're the reason why people get up in the morning.
Exactly.
And they provide immense companionship, and they're important. But we've had a lot of people say, by keeping the cats, we're abusing them. They eat better than we do.
Wow.
Yeah, we're just abusing them. But hey, they have their shots. They've been to the vet.
I know that from my experience, animals are the thing that can keep most people, like you said, it's a reason to wake up in the morning, like something to take care of and something to focus on other than your situation. And
often the world can just feel very uncaring. And then you have this dog or cat that unconditionally loves you back. That can be everything.
Absolutely.
So they're not being little buttholes that day. Gotta love them, but sometimes.
Do they go outside the car? Like, do they run around and come back? Or?
We used to have a little playpen for them. But we had to trash it. But otherwise, they actually like living in the car now.
Okay, good.
Sometimes when we get hotel rooms, it's a bit of a fight to get them out of the car. But yeah, that's what I really hope for shelters in general, just more accepting. Yeah,
more acknowledgement that not everyone is in these 3 or 4 different specific situations.
Yeah, and also that more focused on helping and not profit.
That's fair. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I've never heard of shelters that require people to pay to be in them, but
New York loves its money. I can tell you so many different examples of it.
Okay. Other than your cats, what brings you joy on a day-to-day basis?
It's actually gotten to be like the really small things. Either someone saying a kind thing or demonstrating that they care. Because we had a few people when they signed out that were homeless go so far above and beyond.
Nice.
And it's heartwarming. And then sometimes just even after a bad night or a cold night or whatever, a nice, sunrise, some of the really small things, as cheesy as it sounds.
Not at all. Yeah, that's the stuff that keeps you going. Absolutely. Yeah, can you tell me about a time when someone just, you just hinted at it, but a time that someone has shown you just an unbelievable amount of kindness since your situation started?
Actually, a few weeks ago on Craigslist on the free section, we saw all this cat stuff, it was cat food, wet food, dry food, cat litter, all this stuff. So we messaged them and they let us have it. And I said, thank you so much. You don't know how much this means to me. And we were talking as we did the exchange, and obviously, we had the cats in the car and our situation was kind of obvious. And they said, wait here. They went to the dollar store and stuff like that, came back with, had been close to $100 worth of groceries and blankets and pillows and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my God. That's the kind of kindness that we need to see more of. That's beautiful.
It was awesome.
Glad to hear that.
It sounds like, actually, I have a general question. What do you think the biggest misperception is of the unhoused?
That we're lazy. Just that we're out to like get any kind of money we can. Or we're all druggies. Which, yeah, there's a portion of the population that is, but not everyone. Or for, at least for the women, we are so desperate for money, we will sell ourselves.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, we were looking for just help in a general community tab just to see if we could find any cheaper rent or anything. Someone offered that if we had a threesome with him every month, he'd knock $200 off his rent.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and he didn't understand the problem was, when I could call them out on it.
That's baffling. I just don't understand how someone could go to that.
I think we've had a couple of offers of the threesome.
Wow. I'm so sorry to hear that.
That's okay. One person just wanted to, said he wanted to help, but wanted to verify that he was talking to an actual person and verify our story. So we video chatted with him, and he was masturbating.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah, we were talking about it on the homeless subreddit, and a lot of women have encountered that. It's despicable.
That's a very good word for it. Absolutely despicable. Taking advantage of someone who's already in a desperate situation. That's just, unfortunately, probably way too prevalent in this country and the world overall. But what do you do to take care of yourself? For self-care?
That can be a bit tricky. The best way we found is when we have a little bit of money, unfortunately can't save it up. We could go into a hotel because, we don't sleep well in the car because of our physical issues.
Sure.
So at least, being able to sleep in a bed for a bit, take a shower. One thing we find we've been lacking is the ability to wash clothing. So we have to buy new clothing every time something gets dirty.
Oh, no.
At least in this area of New York, there's no free washer facilities for the homeless.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard to come across the country. It's
because
it's all the kindness of people that want to go out and help do that sort of service. Unfortunately, cities, for the most part, don't.
Yeah.
So
that's our biggest form of self-care, is just staying into a hotel.
What do you think? What do you want to happen? Like, how do you see getting out of the situation you're in, improving it?
Well, we're trying to trade our car in for either like a small camper or an RV, something of that nature, which has proven to be more difficult than we anticipated. Partially because there's so few things you can do in the country without an address.
Yeah,
and then we're just sort of waiting for my disability to come through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I've been in the process over a year now. We're just waiting for a hearing.
Okay.
And then, I'll get some back pay hopefully, and unfortunately, my friend is part of a class action lawsuit against Ozempic.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because she took it for diabetes, and it's gave her gastroparesis, really screwed up everything. So, and 2 years later, she's still affected. So, unfortunately, we're going to get hopefully a decent settlement for that, and that'll help us at least get out.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't have to be that way, where you have to sacrifice your health
exactly
to get out of this situation.
Okay, last question. What advice would you give to someone who has either found themselves to be homeless or is about to become?
Do all the research you can on any charity, food pantry, pet pantry, anything around you, so you know your own resources. We found a lot of the people they're social workers, caseworkers, they're so overwhelmed that they don't know a fraction of the resources out there. You really have to do the research yourself. And be very careful about food pantries. At least our experience with them, you get a lot of expired food that can make you very sick, and you also get a lot of canned food. Yes, they give you canned food and food you have to cook, which, as a homeless person, is not helpful.
Not actually usable, yeah.
And they don't give you a can opener.
Yeah, just the little things, right?
Yeah. Be aware of the resources around you on your own.
Good advice, thank you.
Sure, no problem. I'm glad I could help.
Hi again. Thanks for listening. Now, a couple of updates on Alexis. The day after we did this interview, she messaged me and let me know that the car that her and her friend were living in was repossessed. They were then sleeping on the streets. It had been a couple of weeks, and I reached out to her again to see how she's doing. Thankfully, they were able to move to Illinois to stay with the family of her friend and just try and get all the support they can to get back on their feet. If anyone is interested in donating to Alexis, I am going to put her information in the text of this posting, and you can send something to her directly that can help her get through her day-to-day. If you know of any unhoused individuals that would like to be interviewed, or you would like to submit an interview yourself, please reach out to us through the website, understandingtheunhoused.org. Click on the contact button, send us a quick message. We'll get back to you as soon as we can and get things moving. Also, while on the site, if you're feeling generous, please click on the donate button. There is a very low overhead for this podcast, but there are costs involved, especially when Wendy and I go out to the unhoused community. We always want to have supplies with us, and funds are always welcome to help that along. Thanks again for listening. I hope after hearing these stories, you will have a little more compassion, a little more empathy, and a better understanding of the unhoused.